Kia ora, good evening. Things got a bit heated in Invercargill's council chambers yesterday when Mayor Tim Shadbolt accused a city councillor of attempting to deny elected officials from a decision-making process. A meeting was held to decide whether the council would increase the borrowing capacity of its holding company Holdco. Councillor Karen Arnold voiced concerns about the decision as well as the decision-making process, which was not received well by the Mayor.
So there was quite a few submitters that were concerned about the involvement of Council Finance and Corporate Services Director Dean Johnson. Now, he was the person responsible for supplying us decision makers with all the information regarding this deal, but he's also the Chief Executive of Holdco and of Invercargill City Forests, and he's a director on the Forestry Board. So it was really difficult, I think, to get a sense that the information he was sharing with us was actually independent and it couldn't be tested. So that was a real concern. The other concern I had was, even though Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt said he wasn't conflicted, given the fact that he's on the airport board as a director and the airport could be affected if we didn't choose option 2, he said that he would view the whole submission process with an open mind. But then yesterday, during his tirade at me and councillors, it extended to submitters, and he basically queried why we even had to listen to what they said. Really, debate last night was really shut down quite early by the Mayor. He had attempted to reinstate standing orders so that we only had the opportunity to speak once each and for 5 minutes. He lost that vote, so in theory we should have been able to discuss the matter before us several times over each, but as it was, the Mayor shut us down after we each spoke once, and we really didn't have a good conversation. My fear was, when you look at the Local Government Act 2002, there's a process that councillors must follow to ensure safe, robust decision making. And the Office of the Auditor General also has rules about, or guidance about, conflicts of interest and how they should be managed. And I just wanted the councillors to be sure that in their heart of hearts, when they voted, they were sure that our process and our decision making couldn't be challenged afterwards.
The New Zealand Initiative has released a report stating that resource-rich parts of rural New Zealand would benefit from mineral mining. The report, titled Poverty of Wealth, Why Minerals Need to be Part of the Rural Economy, says regional parts of the country may have significant opportunities in mining. Invercargill's Green Party have long been against the proposed mineral mining in Southland. Sharon Rees spoke to former Green Party candidate Dave Kennedy on why he disagrees with the report.
Well, if you look at other countries such as the US and Australia, where they've been involved in fracking and coal mining, then most of the sort of agricultural economies have suffered because of it. So I don't really see that as happening. And often, if towns do benefit for a brief time because of mineral extraction, it doesn't last for that long, so the infrastructure builds up, and then of course as soon as the industry ends, everything goes. Any kind of extraction industry, if it involves minerals and whatnot, only has a limited life, so it'll last as long as the mineral exists. So they tend to make a lot of money while it's there, and then once the mineral is extracted, then of course the industry probably ends.
What are some of the long-lasting effects of mining?
Well, it depends on the kind of mining and what kind of extraction you're talking about, but as we know with coal mining, there's often a human cost, and most coal mining communities tend to suffer financially in the long term. They're not wealthy communities.
Is there any other way of lifting Southland's economy other than mineral mining?
I think Venture Southland's doing some really good work in a whole range of different areas. I think diversifying the economy is really good. I don't think there's any one answer. I think we could be looking at I think Venture Southland looked at growing oats and other things that we had once done in the past. And I think a lot of people are talking about adding value to the raw commodities we produce. We could be doing more with our wood and more with our dairy products as well.
South Alive, in conjunction with the Idea Services, are hoping to brighten up South Invercargill's kids' lives as well as their streets. As part of the South Alive Child and Youth Engagement Initiative, bright yellow bikes will be hitting South City streets next year.
This is the yellow bikes for South Alive, donated by people in the community and done up by the Bike Doctor and Idea Services. There's some of the service users there who have been working on them as a project, and the idea is these will be early next year on loan from the South Alive office for people in South Invercargill.
Who will these bikes be loaned to?
Basically anyone who comes along and to the South Alive office and asks for them. So the idea is that we'll give some publicity that there are loan bikes available. There'll be a very small charge and they'll be available for a day so that people can pick them up and return them.
Basically getting the bikes all up and running perfect, and then giving them a light sand and painting them and pulling bits apart and putting them back together. Yeah.
How long does a project like that take?
Oh, it took us about 2 months. Some days we sort of have to wait for the weather and that so the guys can get outside and paint and that, but yeah, it was like a couple of months.
Is it quite hard work?
Oh, it's not too bad. Bit of sanding and that gets a bit hard for them and that, but no, it's not too bad.
Stay with us. Coming up after the break, plans for the largest private collection of its type in the world, and Invercargill's top students' achievements are celebrated. Welcome back. St John and the New Zealand Fire Service have signed an updated memorandum of understanding between the two services, setting out processes about who should respond and when. Vehicle dispatch equipment, training levels and criteria for establishing first response units are covered. The Fire Service provides medical response with St John, while St John provides ambulance standby if fire need assistance at a call-out. The updated MOU will ensure faster responses to emergency calls and better outcomes for patients. The building consent's been granted, and now it's time to get on with constructing a world-class transport museum featuring children's zones, a licensed cafe, shopping, educational engineering, memorabilia, plus hundreds of vintage vehicles and trucks. The HWR group of Invercargill are taking a private collection public. They hope to triple visitors to 15,000 per year, and with what's in store, it should be more than achievable.
It's a great space, and it's very blokey at the moment, very bloke orientated, and we just wanted it to reach a further audience. I mean, in the museum world they call it layering, which is where you just bring in different things which will captivate, like the children and the wives and everything else. So,
give us some examples. You've talked about a Lego pit before we started filming, and a couple of other things.
Yeah, so we're looking at doing a Lego room. There's a guy in Christchurch that can make up big Lego models of any vehicle we'd like him to. And we're going to put a party room in behind that where we can do themed construction parties or something along those lines. We've got a paddy wagon, which is going to become our kids' signature vehicle. That's just so that there's something for the children to climb on. It's a replica, so if it gets a few knocks and scrapes, it's not the end of the world. We're going to put a wee makeshift jail and convict outfits and big balls and chains so they can get their photos taken. That type of thing. We're also looking at doing a wearable arts area. The Henry Ford display will be in that front area with the Richardson story and the Henry Ford story and other exhibits in there. The top mezzanine, it's a mezzanine around the front of the top, and that will have training rooms for Richardson Group training, and also conference areas and office space up there, and a library. We have quite a big library.
There's going to be a dedicated room to your dad and his life story?
Yes, so we're doing some signature displays. So we have some quite interesting stories that I'd just like to bring to life more. We're doing the Richardson Group story and Dad's life story in that area, and some of the, my grandfather was very clever with timber and making those tables with the little bits. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Is it parquet?
Parquet, yeah. So I'd like to showcase some of that and some of the talents that were there. Even my great-grandmother was a wonderful tatter, and so I've got some of her work that I'd like to just show some of that as well. We would like to do the Henry Ford story and just talk about the production line and how that revolutionised manufacturing in that way. The mobile story, and then we're doing a bike wall. We've got some quite interesting stories about different bikes, and also we've got the first Invercargill passenger bus. So it's just bringing those exhibits to life and telling the stories behind them.
The Henry Ford story is an interesting one. You've bought a collection from Darwin last year, which really prompted the whole expansion.
Yeah. So a really good friend of my dad's, Jim Cooper, he was going to auction off his collection, and as we say, we had a wee rush of blood to the head and thought we'd bring it back to Invercargill. So that really tipped us into opening to the public, yeah.
It's going to be a huge benefit to the community. You're looking at creating another family space, another indoor venue where people can go and enjoy, soak up the atmosphere, but also on an international scale. There's potential there as well, I understand.
Well, we think there is potential. Earlier in the year, Sally and I went to LA to a forum where transport museums from around the world get together. And we presented to the board over there about bringing that type of forum to Invercargill. So it's a potential audience that wouldn't have come here otherwise. And we think that we'll be providing a venue where those sorts of conferences can be held. We have about almost 300 vehicles all up. They won't all be in that space. I think we're going to have to probably take about 25% out, and they will be on a off-site storage, but that will also give us the benefit of being able to rotate the collection. In the retro area, we're going to have like the combi vans, and we've got like an old Bambina, and we've just been donated a 1955 Morris Minor. I'd like to do a sort of a section on the people's cars. It's just a really fun project to be involved in. You think of the children's area and what we can do to engage them more, and the women, and so I'm sure more things will come up along the way, but I've sort of got my hands quite full with trying to pull this one off at the moment.
Invercargill students were congratulated on their efforts at the annual Southern Institute of Technology Awards ceremony last night. 150 awards were handed to the best and brightest students from a variety of courses on all SIT campuses in Invercargill. Prominent Southland businessman Graham Cooney gave the students a few financial tips before the first of the special awards were presented. SIT CEO Penny Simmons says the awards ceremony was an opportunity for SIT to celebrate the outstanding achievements of its top students and to showcase their relationships with local and national businesses. And that's it from the news desk this Wednesday. Sport follows the weather next from the news team. Good night.